A forgotten artifact lies in pieces on a planet far from Earth. Few know it exists except those who took it back and those whose ancestors created it. 4 young people are thrown into a race against emissaries of the gods to find its pieces. Mistrust, greed, and magic are tangled in an endless web. What will the fate be of the universe once it is found and reassembled? Get Scepter of the Gods, The Rod of Truth now on Amazon, and get wrapped up in the saga that will not let you go.
Good morning and welcome to the Motivational Devotional, where we are merging motivation and spirituality to create a daily dose of confident positivity. I hope that this morning's podcast will help you to be more spiritually and positively motivated so that you can transform your day. Good morning, I'm Mark the Writer, and I want to thank you for joining me today as we continue our series, 50 Ways to Love Your Soul. I hope you've been able to follow along with this series and are finding it helpful in getting your new year going in the direction of your lifelong goals. If you know anyone who could use some encouragement in setting goals, then please share this podcast or the blog version from motivational-devotional.com. Have you ever had the experience of suddenly being alone and not wanting to cook? You find a restaurant where you can grab something to eat, and you sit there for supper, alone, staring at the things in the restaurant, watching people, observing things they do, and maybe just feeling lonely? I've heard people say that they hate to eat alone. You might not be surprised to hear that I don't. It's not that I prefer it, it's just that I view the occasions of eating with people and eating alone as simply different. The lack of people eating with me doesn't have any bearing on my mood. A good many years ago, I was finishing up my first semester of seminary, and having gone through midterms with me, my wife said she was taking the kids with her to visit my parents and that when I was done with finals, I could join them. But they didn't want to be around grumpy me when I was gnashing my teeth over the exams. I easily saw her point, and I was so immersed in studying and writing that the time went by very quickly. After taking my last exam, I drove the commute back home and had that very experience where I found myself alone. So I was going to head out of town for a week the next morning, and I didn't want to cook. So I went to the local steakhouse and treated myself to dinner. Alone. I was alone, but I wasn't lonely. You see, probably the same as a good many people listening to this or reading it, I've understood for a very long time that there is a huge difference between being alone and being lonely. Being alone is a physical fact. Being lonely is an emotional state, and as I say quite often, it's not what happens to you, it is what you tell yourself about what happens to you that makes all the difference. It's not that you're convincing yourself something like somebody in a haunted house saying over and over, I'm not scared, but in reality they are petrified. No, so it isn't that you're lonely, but you keep telling yourself that it's okay. Being alone is cool. Being alone means you're in good company, but inside you're heartbroken that you don't have someone to be with you. I actually don't really even think about it. If it does occur to me that I am eating alone when I could possibly be eating with someone else, I remind myself that I have lots of opportunities to be with people, and this meal gives me a chance to collect my thoughts, be at peace, and not have to be concerned with another person's feelings or intentions or assumptions for that little window of time. I say all that because I think the vast majority of what people do for dates is to go out and eat. It's easy and a low commitment. You're not inviting someone into your home, and you're not having to put your whole life on display if it is a first date or one of the first ones. People also go to movies or a walk in the park as a first date. Also, low commitment opportunities. Incidentally, I also happen to enjoy doing both of those by myself too. I'm not a loner, and I am very comfortable in groups of people, but I am an introvert, meaning that I gather my energy back by being with myself. Extroverts gather their energy in groups of people, and they feed off the energy of the group. Introverts find that to be very emotionally expensive, and lengthy gatherings like fellowship dinners, wedding receptions, office parties, things like that are more draining than a 70-hour work week. Regardless of whether you are introverted or extroverted, bear in mind that you can find new appreciation for yourself by spending some intentional alone time with nobody else but you. True extroverts will say that that would drive them nuts, but I would like to point out that if you would like to have some really intelligent conversation, just talk to yourself. Intentionally go on a walk, or out to eat, or to a movie by yourself. Listen to the voice within while you're having that experience. If you're going on a walk and aren't around anyone at all, speak out loud to yourself and not in a way that beats you up about anything. Talk about what you like about the experience and realize that the person you are is worthy of your attention. See, that's what this whole exercise is about. If you will, once in a while, intentionally date yourself, then you are telling yourself that you are worth it. You are worth the price of the meal or movie ticket, and you can even splurge on the popcorn and not feel guilty about it because, again, you are worth it. Think, too, about what the best dates have been for you. Did the other person compliment you? Maybe they said what a great listener you are, or how nice you are, or what a compassionate person you must be, or how generous you are because you left a nice tip for a server. Whatever compliment they gave you, give it to yourself again on this date. You might get a few weird looks in a restaurant if you leave a nice tip and say out loud to yourself how generous you are. Use your discretion. You get the idea. Go on a special date with yourself that would make it a really special occasion simply for the purpose of letting yourself know that you value yourself. You are the most important person that you can ever do this with, because where would you be without you? Nowhere, right? Take good care of you. When you do, you will come to know that all of creation is conspiring in your favor. Trust that the universe always has your back. Korean musician R.M. said, "When we don't have a boyfriend or girlfriend, we always say, 'Oh, I'm so lonely. I want a date,' or something like that. But I think the biggest love we're all searching for is the love for one's self."
Thank you for taking the time to listen today. Please help keep this podcast going by following the Motivational Devotional Facebook page, following @Threefold Way Radio on Twitter, and sharing the written format of today's message from motivational-devotional.com on your social media. I am deeply grateful for your support, and thank you for letting Motivational Devotional be part of your journey. Peace out. See you tomorrow.
Motivational Devotional is a production of Threefold Way Radio, LLC.